Well, guys, my doe antelope tag starts next Saturday, 1 week from today. All those antelope, they're on a patch of state trust land. I could hunt that. That's in the unit that I can hunt. I'm literally just parked on the road. There's probably 30 head in that herd. We'll see if they're there next week. Good morning, guys. It's about 9:45. I've been out here since a little before 6:30, before the sun came up. Hiked up on top of these foothills over here. I've got 2 tags in my pocket. I still have my cow elk tag. That season's still going on. And my doe antelope tag started today. And I just glassed up some antelope. They're forever out there. But that's what we're after. I can't tell from here if they're on public or private. I've got to get closer to know for sure. There's a couple little patches of private intermixed with this BLM land out here. So I'm just not sure, but I'm gonna go get closer, see if we can figure out if they're on public. If they're on public, we'll put a stalk on, see what we can do. Thanks for coming along. Okay, let me give you an update, guys. I still can't tell if those antelope are on public or private, but what I can tell for sure, if I approach from this side, there's a ranch house and some ranch buildings that are going to be in the background. And I don't know that I'd be able to get in a position where I could take a shot without those being in the background. So it's only probably 2 miles as the crow flies, but I'm going to go around and back from the other side. There's another state trust access point where I can get over there and access it. And then at least I won't be shooting back towards that ranch and those buildings. And that's, again, if they're on public. So we'll flip around over there and let's see. I can't see the antelope from here, but I can count 3 trucks and 3 razors over here. And there's a group of guys walking in, so I'm sure they can see them. So I don't want to mess them up. I'm just going to sit here and wait. I'm in the public land, just barely. So I'm just going to hang out here and watch this play out. Maybe they'll bump them to me. If not, I'm going to head to a different area here pretty soon. Just coming out of the little canyon that I've seen elk in here the most. Not that I see them in here often, but when I have seen elk up in here, that little canyon I just came out of, that's where I see them more often than not. So it's about a 1.5 mile hike up into there from where I parked. So just wanted to go check that out. And I'm not going to wait here though for the twilight kind of shooting time. I'm going to get back on the road and kind of shift back to antelope mode. So I don't even know which video I'll post this on, if I'll put it on my elk hunt or my antelope hunt. But again, I've got both tags right now. It's been a fun day. I did find a herd of antelope. They were on private land, but really not far from public. They might have migrated on, but there are already like 7 other people watching them. 3 razors, a couple pickup trucks. In fact, it looked like they were going to make a stalk. Well, they did get out of their vehicles and looked like they were making a little bit of stalk. So I sat there for a while in case they busted them towards me. But and then I thought, even if they do bust them towards me, there's going to be people in the background. So I'm not going to take a shot. So I went ahead and came up here and thought I'd check out that little canyon for elk. I did see a little herd of deer. Had 2 bucks in it, both small, both little 2 points. It was cool to see them. Saw a coyote. He was on private also, because if he would have been on public, I definitely would have taken a shot. He was about 200 yards out, but just standing there broadside with some cows. So anyway, it's been a fun day. It's supposed to be 55 or 56 today, so it's beautiful weather. It was cold this morning. It was 28 when I left the truck. Not brutally cold, but you know, cold. And then the wind was blowing, so wind chill is probably low 20s for sure. But thankful to be able to get out and do the things I like to do. Grateful that I'm healthy enough to do it. Still got some stuff going on in my Achilles, but it's not too bad. I've been able to hike pretty much as I'd want to hike anyway. So thankful for that. Let's get back up to the truck and see if we can find some antelope. We got about 2.5 hours of daylight left, so we still got plenty of time. Well, I don't know if that counts as a stalk or not. Because they blew out when I was still 3/4 of a mile away, probably. They were way out there. But I'm on public land. I'd stopped a glass. I saw a little herd coming off this hillside, but they dropped down in the bottom. And I was stooped over, pretty much could touch the ground with my hand. But as you can see, there's nothing to hide behind. And when I peeked over the hill, they were, like I said, they're way out. I mean, they've got to be at least half a mile without exaggerating. And I think maybe more like 3/4 of a mile. So I just sat and glassed, but they were feeding away from me. They weren't coming towards me. And there's not a road on the other side of this big basin, at least not that I can see on OnX. So I was like, well, I gotta make an attempt. So I started kind of duck walking down that hill, and I didn't get more than 15 yards and they saw me and blew out. So man, they can see. But that was fun. That was fun. That's what we're after. They were all does, and like yearling fawns in that group. There were 12. So it's always exciting when you see what you have a tag for. I'm gonna come back up to the truck and just double check the map one more time and make sure I didn't miss something where there's a road that would loop back around over there to try and head them off. But I just didn't see one on the map. But I'm gonna check one more time before I pull out of here. We're out on this doe antelope hunt. Box Elder County, north of the Great Salt Lake. Sun's just coming up. I missed the best color. I thought it might get a little more pink, so I waited, but actually it's not as pink as it was. And in the binoculars, when you're looking back out towards the lake, just like a sea of pink. It was absolutely beautiful. Jordan's with me today. She has today off from school. So she was kind enough to come with Dad. But she's sleeping in the truck. I imagine she'll be getting a lot of napping in today. Alright, Jordan and I are sneaking up on a little herd of antelope. I think they're still probably 800-900 yards away. We dropped down on the backside of a hill so that they couldn't see us. We originally saw them from up above. We're coming up from below them so that we have the hill to hide behind. I'm not exactly sure where to come out. So I think we're getting within about 800 or 900 yards would be my guess. I know they won't show up on the GoPro, but there's that herd about 1,000 yards out. I got to within 500 which is a long shot for me. But I had my bipod down, but I couldn't see over all this thistle. I was going to shoot through the thistle. I didn't want that to impact the bullet at all, so I sat up and rested the gun on my backpack. They were all facing me. Every one of them was facing me, so I didn't have a good shot. And then finally, the lead one turned broadside. So I exhaled and slowly squeezed the trigger, and click. I had forgot to put one in the chamber. I can't imagine they heard the click, but for whatever reason, as soon as I clicked it, they started running. Well, guys, here's the situation. I'm trying to tuck behind the truck for the wind. This is my 4th time out on my antelope hunt. I've seen antelope every time. Last time I came out, I forgot my GoPro. I didn't film. I ended up getting in 4 different stalks. I took 2 shots. They were far. I just could not close any more distance, and they were both clean misses. Probably about 550 yards. I just spotted 2 antelope. I mean, they're way out. They're 2 miles out probably. When I first saw them, I've driven about a half a mile, just found them again. So it looks like I can stay up on this shelf and drive and close some of the distance. And then we'll get out and see if we can put a stalk on them. Super windy. It's not cold temperature wise too bad. The high is supposed to be 40 today, but the wind's blowing 25 miles an hour pretty steadily, so wind chill's pretty cold. And yeah, I just got to try and get closer and you know, really make sure I've got a good base, nice and steady, which I felt like I've had that on both those shots I took. I think my big issue, I wasn't squeezing into my trigger enough. I was focusing so much on a light trigger squeeze, and you know, my breathing, I wasn't really sinking it into my shoulder, because when I pulled and the recoil hit, my sight picture changed dramatically. Now it obviously always changes a little bit, but it was way off, so I just don't think I was pulling it in tight enough. But anyway, let's see if we can close the distance and put on another stalk today. Even the jackrabbits don't want to move in this wind. That's nuts. Never ever gotten that close to a jackrabbit before. I wonder if he's hurt, because he doesn't want to go. Still stalking these antelope. They're still a half a mile away. It's taking me forever. I'm just working this little draw, because I don't have to crawl, I can walk, and I'm down below where the antelope can see me. They're still forever out there. They've been feeding away from me. I would guess they're still probably 3/4 of a mile away. So I'm going to try and get up above them and then work from above instead of straight across. Plus, that's just kind of the direction this draw is leading. So right now it's actually pulling me away from them. They're back to my left, but I think this is going to curve around. I looked at OnX and get me close to where I want to go. So we're still grinding away. Well, it's the walk of shame. That was a clean miss. Just over 500 yards again. There was a rock that my rangefinder would pick up at like 490, I think it said, or 492. 492. And those antelope were probably another 25 yards past that. I guess it's so hard to tell, man. The distances out here fool you. I thought I had spotted those antelope originally from about 2 miles off. It was over 4 miles away. In fact, by the time I got out of the truck, it was 2.17 to where I just took that shot. So, and I had driven at least a mile and a half, if not 2 miles, to get to that point. So the distances are just a lot farther than I think. That was 2.5 hours, guys, of mainly walking. I found some good little ravines I could walk in. I didn't have to crawl very much, but a little bit of crawling there at the end, and came up empty. I can see them. They're way out in the middle of this big basin, and there's no way I'll stalk them out there. It's flat. At least up here I had some ravines and some topography. But if they go all the way across to the other side, I can loop around and maybe try to head them off. So I'm not quitting for the day. See if we can get maybe one more stalk somewhere. Might find another herd too, though. That's a big herd. I think what's happened is the later it's going in the season, these antelope that were in like little groups of 7, they've all kind of come together. That's a big herd. There's probably 45 antelope in that. And I haven't seen a herd that big out here the whole time I've been hunting. So I think what's happened is some of these smaller herds have bunched together. So anyway, we've got, like I said, about 2 miles to hike back to the truck. And I'll see if I can pick them up in my glasses again, and then we'll make a plan from there. That was my first ever time drawing an antelope tag, and I learned a lot. You know, I never claimed to be a professional hunter. I'm still learning as I go. I think I'm better than I was 10 years ago, but I'm learning a lot. And I tell you what, it's a different game hunting antelope. You know, with deer hunting and elk hunting, you're so worried about the wind. You're so worried about scent. Now, obviously, you know, you try to be careful that they don't see you. You're not running around. But to me, when I'm deer hunting or elk hunting, the scent is way more important than the visual. Not with antelope. Those things could see me for forever away. There were several times they bolted at, you know, 800, 900, 1,000 yards out. And the difference between them and deer, you know, especially muleys, I think whitetail are different. I've never hunted whitetail, but a muley often will bound off 10, 20 yards and then stop and look at the threat. Not these antelope. Once they went, they went. You know, they would go 1.5 miles before they would stop. It was just crazy. So I learned a lot. I think also it's helpful to have someone with you who can spot while you're putting the stalk on in those areas where there was some topography. You know, I'd constantly lose sight of the antelope. That one shot I had on film, the antelope I wanted to take a shot at were actually higher up against the rocks, against the cliffs. That's what I was stalking. But as I came around a bend, lower antelope could see me. That they were going to bust me before I could close the distance. If those lower antelope wouldn't have been there, I could have gotten within 200 yards of the higher antelope. I had a really good plan, but some others had fed out and they could see me. So anyway, it is what it is. The other thing I learned is I need to practice at longer distances. I just never do, because in deer and elk hunting, I just don't shoot over 300 yards. I've only taken one shot over 300 yards, and that was on an elk at 404. And I hit it. It was 1 shot, 1 kill, but I don't ever take shots that long for deer. So I just need to get better at long range shooting, because all the shots I took 3 shots on this hunt. They were all over 500 yards and wasn't able to connect on any of them. So, and I did the best I could to have a good base, to discipline of slowly squeezing the trigger, of exhaling. But at those distances, I just don't shoot that very much. So I'm thankful that I missed completely. Obviously, I would have felt worse if I'd have wounded an animal. So I had a lot of fun, though. I mean, it was cool to go on that many stalks. It was cool to see that many antelope, and that's what you have a tag in your pocket for. And, you know, hopefully I don't have to wait 7 years to do it again. That's how long it took me to draw this tag. But I'll start putting it again next year. We'll see what happens. So thanks so much for coming along on that. Let's go ahead and do the channel shout out in the Minute on the Mountain. The channel I want to shout out is Livin Utah Outdoors. Stacy over at Livin Utah Outdoors. He also has a channel called Fish Stealer Chronicles. So I'll go ahead and shout out both his channels. A lot of outdoor activity, a lot of fishing videos. And you can tell he just loves being in the outdoors. He loves catching fish. And he puts out great content. He's a joy to watch, and he's been a big supporter of my channel. So please check him out when you have some time. Tell him that Minute on the Mountain sent you. And then the minute on the mountain comes from Luke chapter 1, and it's when the angel told Mary that she would give birth to the Messiah. I thought I'd hit this leading into Christmas. Mary's confused. God's plans don't make sense. She says, well, how can this be since I am a virgin? And then the angel goes on to explain that you're going to conceive by the Holy Spirit. And Mary just says, I'm your servant. Like, whatever God wants to do, even though it doesn't make sense to me, I'm your servant. And essentially, Joseph goes to the same thing. You know, Joseph is going to divorce Mary quietly. He wants to honor her, even though he feels like she's been unfaithful to him. And the angel explains to him, hey, this is not Mary's fault. She hasn't been unfaithful. This child is going to be conceived by the Holy Spirit. And Joseph obeys, and he marries her. And he doesn't have relations with her until after Jesus is born. Like, he's obedient. And it had to be confusing to Joseph too, because in that culture, all the sideways glances they would get, you know, people accusing them of sleeping together before marriage, which was a huge deal in that culture. It's not a big deal in our culture anymore for so many people. This would have been a big deal. So I just appreciate their simple obedience, even when God's plan didn't make sense. So maybe you're in the middle of something right now and it doesn't make sense. Whatever God has called you to do, just simple obedience, take the next step. So that's the Minute on the Mountain, Luke chapter 1. I appreciate all your guys' support. I still have an elk hunt going on right now. I've got about another month of that. I have not harvested yet, but hopefully we can get out at least 2 or 3 times before that season's over, and hopefully we can get some more meat in the freezer. All right, God bless you guys. We'll see you the next time we're out on the mountain.